So the theme of today is going to be how well do you know environmental health and safety and risk management? So some of you may interact with our offices quite a bit. Some this may be an introduction. And just as a common thread throughout this, we're here to support you and to support your team's success. So hopefully this gives you some ideas of different ways that we can interact and support you in the future.
Michael, I'm going to put the link in the chat for some people. You can also go to ahaslides.com and that will be the actual code that they ask you to do that. So let me put that in there.
So on your screen here is a quick overview of our risk and EH&S department. So you can see we have a wonderful group of professionals. And I do want to point out, we recently hired Amber Adams as our new EH&S manager. We'll be adding her photo to this org chart shortly, but you'll be able to get to know her and interact with her in the weeks ahead.
Has everyone successfully joined who wants to join? I put the website there and you just put the 9UQOD. Yes, that's the letter OD. All right. So we have 20 people who are joining and 21 maybe. Okay, so let's go on, Michael.
Awesome. All right. So actually, do we need to reset this? Let me back up one step. I don't know if you're signed in on the admin side. Let's see if we can reset the all right, sorry about that. So in the interest of resiliency, that was just a quick resiliency exercise for some business continuity. Okay, so first question, and hopefully this is popping up on everyone's screen. So if you're injured for a non-emergency incident at work, what should you do? Go ahead and select what you feel is the appropriate selection. All right, everyone got it. Tell your supervisor. Excellent. So now as we go through this, we're going to keep a leaderboard going. So we'll see who the top responses are. Okay. So quick summary. So tell your supervisor first, if you have an injury, report that to your supervisor immediately. Just so we can touch a little bit more in a few moments on our timelines, but essentially report that to your supervisor. We want to have your supervisor submit a supervisor's first report of injury. We call that an SFR within 24 hours of that injury taking place. And that's to ensure that injured employees get a copy of the DWC-1 claim form within 24 hours, which is a state law requirement. Question 2. After an injury is reported, who is responsible to perform a root cause analysis? Go ahead and pick what you feel is the best appropriate answer. Kind of feel like a game show host.
You are.
Few more seconds. Who's responsible to perform that root cause analysis? Quite a spread. It's the supervisor. The supervisor does the root cause analysis. EH&S is here to support and will happily help participate in that process, but it really comes down to having open engagement with the injured employee and the supervisor to make sure that we're identifying how that happened and how we can prevent that from happening. We got some movement on the leaderboard. All right, question 3. This is going to be a matching timeline. Go ahead and pick the appropriate time frame. We talked about this briefly a few slides ago. Each notification, when does it need to occur by? Okay, most got it. So as a reminder, employees need to report those injuries immediately. Supervisors get 24 hours to do their SFR submission. And we provide that DWC-1 within 24 hours as well, and 3 days to do the incident report. Okay, next slide. Question 4, true or false? Office ergonomics is the study of how equipment and furniture can be arranged for maximum productivity. True or false? True. So office ergonomics is a process that we use to help fit your equipment and furniture to address your needs, individual needs. And it's a very interesting subject. It's dynamic. If you change one element like your chair, it can change everything. So it's actually very involved and it's an ongoing process. So this is something that we're here to assist you with. And you can certainly reach out to our office and request an ergonomic assessment for your workspace through our website. We're happy to do that for you. Lola is on top, Fernando, and then A are our top 3 right now. Okay, question 5. It's okay to dispose of AA batteries in your waste bin. True or false? What do we do with those AA batteries? False. Yes, do not throw them in the trash. This goes for any batteries that we use in the workplace. Sometimes we can even see 9-volt batteries, but any of those disposable batteries, we want to, they're regulated as universal waste, and we need to handle those appropriately. So this is just a very quick overview, and we have various mechanisms to help you with battery collection. Sometimes, and this is really helpful for administrative support coordinators, someone who may sit even at a front desk. You could serve as a hub for folks within your office, and we have containers we can provide that have appropriate labeling that can serve as little collection sites for batteries. So we can keep these out of the landfills. All right, question 6. When should campus departments notify EH&S that they're serving food? This is non-campus catering at their event. So when you're not using campus catering, when should you notify EH&S? Okay, serving food to general public. When we serve food to the public, we inherit a lot more risk. And there's a lot of factors that go into making sure that we're watching for potential for foodborne illness. And we're actually, just as a helpful tip, we're actually working with various stakeholders on campus to do a thorough review and roll out a new food policy procedure that will service the campus moving forward. So stay tuned for updates. Question 17. See if you could put these controls in order from the most effective to the least effective. Those of you that read our COVID prevention plan might be familiar with these concepts. It's also in our injury and illness prevention program. All right, this is the order. Elimination, if we can eliminate the hazard, is the most effective. If we can substitute it for a less severe hazard, is the next best option. An engineering control could be like a guard or a physical barrier to the hazard. You can put a policy or a procedure in place, which is administrative controls. That is something that requires people to follow. And then last but not least is personal protective equipment. So when you have something like safety glasses or gloves or a respirator, that's your last line of defense. here's a representation of what that looks like. This may look familiar. We try to highlight this in our safety programs, but it's called the NIOSH hierarchy of controls, and it helps us when we're looking at hazards in the workplace. If we don't address the hazards in this particular order, some cases we can actually introduce a hazard we didn't have before. So for example, if we put a respirator on an employee that we could easily just eliminate the hazard, we actually could introduce a hazard to the employee by putting them in a respirator can cause lung strain and some additional hazards. So sometimes if we do this in the wrong order, we actually can introduce hazards that weren't there originally. All right, question 8. See if you can put these steps for employee injury illness procedures in the correct order. This is going to start to tie in now to workers' compensation. So those who have worked with workers' compensation in the past will be familiar with this process.
And yeah, that's really important, Michael. Like you said, making sure the PeopleSoft information is up to date, because often we text message individuals to give them further information, help them understand where to go if they want to go seek treatment. But also, it's important that if there's an emergency and suppose we have to call 911, making sure that information PeopleSoft is really important, because we want to get in touch with your emergency contact info, etc. So that should be done well in advance. We should do that regularly, whether there's an injury, illness or not. So when someone does get injured or hurt on the job, the first step is to tell a manager or supervisor about the incident, and then you want to get medical treatment. Now you have the option to not seek medical treatment. We actually have a nice table on our workers' compensation website that helps people understand what a first aid injury would be. And our departments do have first aid kits, and you can work with EH&S to update your kit if needed. But then there's also the medical only. That's where you go to one of our clinics, whether it's at the Palm Desert campus or San Bernardino. We have options where you can go and it's not a cost to you. We even have the ability to have rideshare come and pick you up if you don't have a means to get there. But then it's also important that you complete the DWC-1 claim form within 24 hours. And that's the form that allows us to open up a claim to take care of the expenses of your treatment. So sometimes you can go see the doctor for one day and be okay, but there are times where you may need to be off work, or there may need to be additional treatments, and you'll be off work for a prolonged period of time. So you want to make sure that you get the eligible benefits due to you as an employee in California. But most importantly, after recovery, we want to make sure that you come back to a safe space, but also make sure that your coworkers have a safe space. So participating in the investigation that your supervisor or manager will be doing is critical, so that they can put mitigation steps in place similar to that hierarchy of controls that we just talked about to eliminate the hazard. And when that's not possible, find substitutions or do other types of things to reduce the risk of injury or illness.
Real quickly, we do have a question that came in the chat, which we can address right here. Do you provide first aid kits, or should we purchase them as a department? That's an excellent question. We do have first aid kits that we can make available to you on a chargeback basis. They're roughly $18 a piece, or we can also provide you the information to buy them direct from the vendor. We've worked with a vendor that provides a custom CSU SB kit that we've carefully curated the contents of that kit. So we certainly can provide you with that information. You can buy direct from them. If you do get it through us, it will save you a little bit on shipping because we do tend to buy those in larger quantities. So if you're interested, you can reach out to us directly and we can help you with that.
Thanks, Michael. We see some movement on the leaderboard, and we're going to go right through to our next question. What are the responsibilities of an employee who is injured, who is recovering from a workplace injury or illness? Fantastic. We see many people selected multiple choices, and all of these are very important. Once someone is hurt on the job and they've gone through the processes that we said before, often there are checkups so we can make sure that the recovery period is going well and there are not additional elements in the workplace that will exacerbate the injury. And so keeping those medical appointments is very important. And when you go to see your workers' comp doctor, they often provide a status update to indicate whether there's some restriction from you working in a small capacity or even a large one where you can't come to work at all. And so it's important you share that information. You communicate with your supervisor, hey, I have time off from work, so that you can have those transfers of information and the supervisor can manage the space better. It's also important for you as an employee to know what benefits you have to your disposal. It's not just workers' compensation. The California State University has really good benefits for our employees, and many of our attorneys and insurers that we work with, they're surprised when they see the support systems that are in place for employees who have to miss work. So there are other options to make sure that you have some sort of pay. Workers' compensation does not pay you indefinitely. It pays your full paycheck for a period of time, and then it goes down to a percentage. So anything you can do to ensure you get that 100% coverage is important. And you want to keep in contact with our workers' comp coordinator who is in risk management. I see some questions in the chat, so I'm going to wait till we get to the Q&A at the end just to make sure we get through our questions today. One thing that I want to emphasize is that it's important to be familiar with these procedures before an injury occurs. On occasion, we have had departments come and they don't know what to do. And that's not the time to actually go through the procedure or figure out what's going to happen. So I encourage all of you to talk about this at your next team meeting so that everyone's familiar with what to do. And if there's questions, you can send them to us. All right, Lola's still holding it down at the top, followed by Fernando, and looks like Karina is coming in third. What activities must be completed before using a powered cart and or vehicle for CSU business? Select all that apply. All right, this one was a little bit of a trick question. We have two that must be completed before use, and that's defensive driver training, and that's required for all state employees, and as well as STD 261. This is a form that needs to be filled out annually. The power cart safety is a great training, but that is something that our university has put together. It's not required, but strongly recommended. And it doesn't matter whether you're a student or employee, everyone must take that training, those two trainings. If involved in a vehicle accident while in state business, what form should you complete? Excellent. Yes, the vehicle accident form. Again, just like how it was mentioned earlier, it's important that you're familiar with this form before an accident occurs. So if you drive for state business, whether it's on a golf cart or a vehicle, you want to be familiar with what to do if there is an accident. All right, we have some movement again on the leaderboard. So it's really important when there's an accident, even if no one is hurt, that you tell your supervisor. Oftentimes there's property damage or damage to the golf cart itself. And this is an expense that is paid for by the department. And if there are things that need to be fixed, it's important that the department gets your vehicle or your golf cart to our fleet maintenance so that it can be addressed as well. We do have a vehicle accident guidance brochure that's really fantastic. we will be sending out a communication to campus to allow everyone the ability to download this guide. We will also encourage our MPPs to make sure that all vehicles that belong to the state have this brochure in the glove compartment. But again, anyone who drives on state business can download this vehicle accident guidance brochure and put it in the glove compartment. It's currently on our website if you'd like to go and download it today. And you'll just go to the risk management website under vehicles. Annually, the STD 261 form needs to be updated and kept on file by the department. This is a responsibility of department managers, and we recommend that this is done along with the performance review, since that's something that we do annually. This form will have the employee or student acknowledge that they have a valid driver's license and they have the appropriate insurance requirements so that they can drive on state business. Where should youth protection forms be filed? Select all that apply. Youth protection forms are forms that are used for programs that cater to minors. So that's anyone under 18. All right, there's a pretty good spread here. And we can see some people think risk management, some people think the unit hosting the activity, even HR, and some didn't know about the youth protection program. So our youth protection policy is about to be distributed to campus. And I'll talk a little bit more right after the leaderboard. JY, looks like you're coming in at the top and we still have a really close race. What risk management activities should be completed before your unit conducts a program that would include people under 18 years old? This again speaks to youth protection. So which of these activities need to be completed before you do the program? All right. So we have a nice spread again, and you can see all of these activities should be completed before a youth program is conducted on campus. So just so that you're aware, there is a youth protection process that's outlined on the risk management website. It has all of the things that you should know beforehand so that when it comes to you planning your activity, you have all the things that you need at your disposal. It starts with the registration form, and that registration will ask several questions, which includes the staff that will be helping to support the program and making sure they have background checks, the appropriate training, and everything should be kept on file by the department in a place that can be located by others. You should keep the files on hand according to our university retention policy, but be sure to remember that because these are youth, you need to keep them on file until they are the age of 20 or for 3 years, whichever is longer. So our youth protection has had its first reading and the youth protection policy, and we hope to pass that soon. Select 2 types of insurance that contracts and vendors must have to do business with the CSU. All right, we have some people that got both. Excellent. We'll talk a little bit at the end. We have another insurance question coming up. I see you, JY, still at the top, followed by Davina and then A. Automobile, cyber, and/or professional insurance are also required submissions for contracted goods and services. True, false, or only when they are part of the scope of the contract. All right, so we have some answers coming through, and yes, only when they are part of the scope of the contract. are these required? And it's really interesting to understand the various types of insurances available to us. So let's go to the next question. Put the steps for securing foreign travel insurance in correct order. So these are people that need foreign travel insurance if they're on state business. What are the steps to doing this process at CSUSB? Okay, let's see this order. Review the travel warning lists, and you can get to that link. We have a foreign travel section on the risk management website that takes you directly to the link that allows you to see the travel warning lists. This is important so you know what to plan for as a traveler. As you know, many people are going to Mexico because of spring break, and there was some high level alerts put on by our State Department, and they have recommendations of what to do and where to go in Mexico and where to stay away from. And that's just one example. So it's important that you understand that. Then you want to submit your travel approval to Concur. It's really important that you get permission from your department administrator and your VP if you're traveling internationally, because that slows up the process of approvals if the right person's not on that approval chain. And then that does not allow us to get our insurance. Then you will submit the risk management travel survey. We actually send your information to a third-party administrator who works with underwriters from other insurance agencies to actually bind coverage for travel. Each travel trip is bound separately, even though we have estimate rates for places that we go. So it's really important you complete this survey so we can gather all the details that we have anticipated they will ask for ahead of time so the process stays efficient. And then we encourage you to sign up with the State Department Traveler Program so that if there are things that occur, the applicable consulate, U.S. Consul or embassy will know that you're there. They can provide you updates, supports, etc. if there's ever any need for them to communicate with you. All right, Ashley has come back up. All right, next. It's our last insurance question, I believe. Match the type of insurance that can be purchased through risk management. Wonderful. We have special events for coverage of events that have liquor, performances, public attendance. Inland Marine is for very high cost things such as fine art, musical instruments, etc. Foreign travel, we talked a little bit about that previously. And you want to have that if you're traveling. It's a requirement for faculty, staff, and students because it includes things beyond just medical insurance. It's repatriation, legal assistance, etc. And participant accident insurance. So if you're a coach or a club sponsor and you're having attendees come on campus that are not part of our campus community, you can get additional medical coverage through this program. So some things to just emphasize is that all contracts for goods and services require insurance. It doesn't matter if you're working with a mom and pop shop. And what we do for individuals who may be a self-proprietor or they're doing some service free to the university, you can work with risk management to determine what options are there for you as well as waivers. But it's important that we have insurance with our contracts. And for those of you who took the procurement presentation, they are the only ones who are able to do contracts for the university. So I always recommend individuals before doing their purchase requisition, make sure that you're having a communication with your vendor or contractor so that you have the appropriate coverages and they're aware of this before they give you fees. All contracts need to have general liability and workers' compensation, like we said before, and those are minimum levels. So for general liability is a $2 million per occurrence, and there's a higher amount for aggregate. And then for workers' comp, the auto, when it's applicable, professional services, that's like architecture, a medical doctor, a lawyer. Those things are applicable to the contract when appropriate. Now, many times small businesses may not have these coverages, so you can reach out to risk management to get daily rates so that they can only procure insurance through us for the day or two that they're serving our institution. Even though departments can obtain insurance, it's really important that you take the time to reduce and mitigate risks as you can. So make sure you have training, you screen the vendors that you use to make sure they do good work. You could do risk assessments, etc. Risk insurance is just one part of the toolbox that you have to minimize the loss of injuries or finances or things like that that can occur. And then even though we do have foreign travel insurance, there are also other types of insurances that you can purchase. And it's important that you are aware that we do a chargeback for some insurances, but the university does, through the general fund, pay for the foreign travel insurance for all stateside activities. So our auxiliaries and some other funds are not supported by the state general fund. One nice thing is that for those traveling internationally, there is a Crisis 24 app that you will receive in your introductory email, and it's an app you can download, and you're able to get real-time updates, security and safety updates on the locations that you are visiting during your trip. You can even communicate through that app as well to get support. So you may have additional questions that were not answered today. As you can see, risk management and EH&S, we work very closely together. There are a lot of areas that we were not able to present today, but we wanted to focus on injury prevention and insurance and risk reduction in some areas such as youth protection, since those are the areas that people tend to reach out to our office mostly about. But at this time, we have to determine who was the winners for this session. But I want to make sure everyone has a chance to write some questions. If you don't want to put your question in today, you can email riskmanagement@csusb.edu or ehs@csusb.edu as well.
Real quickly, Lenny, so if I can just add too, give us a thumbs up down below if you like this format. We're reviewing a lot of the content that we're providing that could be informative, training, or otherwise. If you find this engaging, if you think that this is a great way you like to receive this content, it's helpful to hear from you. And if you have feedback on how we can improve, you're welcome to share that with us offline as well.
Yes, thank you, Michael. All right, so now let's see who are our winners. Okay, well done to Ashley. Am I saying your name right, Ashley? I hope I am. Holloway. I do not know who Jeanette is. So if you're able to text Christina or Michael, myself, your last name so we can know where to deliver your Starbucks gift card. And our third runner-up is Arthur. So just like Jeanette, Arthur, if you can text Christina or Michael, myself, your last name and your department, we'll make sure we deliver your Starbucks gift cards to you. We'll get those to you Monday morning. And thank you everyone for participating. I see some Q&As. I think we have a few minutes to answer those if it's okay with Christina.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay. So the first question was, does Form STD 261 need to be filled out for everyone in the department if they will not use a vehicle or claim mileage ever? So if someone is not going to use a vehicle for state business, they do not need to complete Form STD 261. It is up to that department administrator to determine that. And one of the things that is helpful in Concur, you can actually upload the appropriate documentation to support a travel request. And that's something that we do. And I believe that also they also request the defensive training certificate. There's a second question. who and how do we submit the paperwork for hiring someone from another university to risk management? So I'm assuming that this person is a student intern, because I think any other employee would have to go through HR's talent acquisition process. For student employees, you should be working with the HR student employment process, where risk management becomes part of the process is through the learning service agreement that needs to be established with that university. Now, this is a contract. So as I said earlier in the presentation, only procurement has the right to sign on behalf of the university. Some departments have an arrangement with procurement where they actually negotiate the learning service agreement between the institution, and then they work on the finished product with procurement. So that is the route that you need to go through. And that institution will have to provide insurance for their student, just like how we have to make sure we have insurance coverages for our students when we place them in other spaces to do internships. Elizabeth, I don't know if that answered all of your question. And if not, you can send me a chat. You can follow up with another question or reach out to me afterwards. Then there's another question from Lynn Scott. It is my understanding that procurement and risk obtain insurance information per requisition on the back end at their point of the process. Is that true, or do ASCs need to figure out, ask for insurance of our vendors and guests before a requisition is submitted? So as I shared before, it's best if you obtain your insurance and records and anything else that you need to support a requisition, so that when you submit them to procurement, you have everything on the table on the front end. Because there are standard workers' comp and general liability insurance requirements, if it's a straightforward contract, you just know your general liability cap should be at $2 million and your workers' comp could be $1 million. I also recommend that departments who do lots of contracts reach out to risk management at the beginning of the year, because it's a good opportunity to go over the checklist for certificates of insurance so that you have a good rule of thumb of what to do. But also our contracts department and procurement will be working with them closely, because they are the ones who engage with vendors many times on behalf of the university. And our contracts folks will have support on what insurance limits are there too. So thank you, Lynn, for this question. And I see that I answered Elizabeth's. And let's see, I just want to make sure we've answered everything in the chat if there was anything else. All right, I don't see any other questions. So thank you everyone for participating today. We look forward to engaging with you all throughout the year, and have a wonderful weekend.
Bye, everyone.